fair, and I'm going to ask him a few questions. Yo-Yo, your first time in England?
Yeah, no, not in England, but the first time I race on a grass track in England, yes.
And you were looking forward to it?
Yeah, it's quite a nice event, so I think so, yeah.
Good. This is the second part of the team challenge. How do you think the Dutch team will do in England here?
Never seen too much British riders ride. I only see two of them, and I guess only one is riding with us, and they were pretty good. So let's call it even.
Okay, that's very good. Yeah, and the trip to England was also very good.
Nice. It was a good trip. Nice boat trip. Oh, it's okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jojo. Yeah, Lamet de Vries, and this is also your first time in England?
No, just for the race. I've been here twice before.
That's good. And you're looking forward to the race also?
Can't wait to start. I'm all dressed for it. So,
that's right. Yeah, that's good. And how long have you ridden with Yo-Yo?
Just this year. This is for two of us our first season.
That's very good. Okay. Here we have another Dutch driver, Roel Limburg, who also speaks very good English. And I ask him a few questions. Roel, is this your first time in England?
My first time in England. I've never been here before.
And you think it's good in England?
Well, what I've seen until this time, it's very good. Pleasant people, a nice town. Chelmsford we've been this morning, and it's a nice town.
And you're looking forward to the race?
I'm always looking forward to the race, but it's a great track. It's a nice surface, and I hope it looks good.
And how long have you been racing?
Well, from 16-year-old, and now I'm 39, so I'm 23 years in the business.
That's a long while, Roel. Yeah. And how long with your passenger now?
This is my first year with Johannes. And it's my third year in sidecar racing. Before I always race solo.
I see. That's very good. And does your passenger also speak English? No.
Speak English. Pastoor en Spiegelaar uit, hoe heet dat? Hoogkerk. This are Spiegelaar and Pastoor from Hoogkerk in Holland. And we're going to ask them a couple of questions. Yeah, it was cozy and comfortable. And, what do you expect from the race tomorrow? Wat verwacht je van de race morgen?
Nou, mooie race. Nee, welke plek ben je? Oh, vijfde.
Oh, he thinks he's going to be fifth. And,
first.
More questions?
Ja, maar we gaan van de eerste houden hoor.
We gaan van de eerste houden.
Wat doe je allemaal? Nou. Oh ja. Hoe vaak ben jullie hier al in? Hebben jullie al tegen de Engelsen geraced? How often have you been racing against those British teams?
In Holland 2 keer, hè? Ja, 2 keer en hier nou 1 keer, dus 3 keer.
This is going to be the third time they have been racing 2 times against the British teams. In
Holland. In Opende en Loppersen.
Het was in Opende en Loppersen. Kijk hoor. En hoe was de uitkomst toen? What was the result of the race at that moment?
Nee, weet ik niet. Vijfdes.
Ja, vandaar vijfde.
Yeah, they were fifth. They're going to be it again. It's Jacques van Dijk. He is the passenger of Chassing. He has to stand by the bike. The driver of that team. And gentlemen, how was the journey over to England? Hoe de reis was?
Too long. Yes.
De reis zelf was goed, maar een beetje lang.
It was too long, they guess. And, they have to fly next time, I think. Wat denken jullie wat de uitkomst gaat worden morgen? What do you think is going to be the outcome of the race?
Ouder rijden en zo goed mogelijk.
Ja.
They want to finish it and as good as possible. En hoe vaak hebben jullie al tegen die Engelsen gereden? How often have you been riding against those British teams?
Alleen in het Stadskanaal.
Ja, tweede keer.
This is going to be the second time they race against them. En wat was toen de uitkomst?
Well, I'm joined by John Fish and Gary Moore. John, of course, British champion in 1991 with Gary in the chair. 1,000 sidecars I call Kent style because you lads basically are in the south of England, are very different from the 500 chairs and the 1,000 chairs. As the next 1,000 passenger, Gary, first of all with you, Give us a little bit of update on what a left-hand sidecar passenger does compared with a right-hand passenger or compared with a 500 passenger.
Well, basically he's got to keep the sidecar down going round, but also give traction coming out the corners. Without the traction, you're just not going to go anywhere. You're just going to spin. So basically he's got to keep the chair down, coming down into the corners, and then coming out the corners, get the traction to the back wheel.
Do you see the sidecar passenger's role on your style of racing more important than the other styles of racing?
Definitely. A lot more. Right-handed, basically the passenger, well, they've proved it can go around without a passenger. Whereas left-handed, you can't get around there without a passenger.
Right, we'll move on to John. John, when you won the championship 12 months ago, you were on a Suzuki. You've now changed, I see, to the FZR. Can you tell us a little bit about why you've changed and the power characteristics of the different types of motor?
Yeah, well, basically, I bought the Suzuki. Mainly, it was a good value for money at the time, and it gave us a good result, and we're very pleased with it. And this year, I thought I'd try a different design frame and different engine, and we sort of went on from there. At first, I regretted it a little bit because the FZR wasn't giving me what the Suzuki gave me, and but now things are coming together. I think by the end of the season, we're sort of back on, not maybe top, but not far away from it. So that was one of the reasons we changed, just basically for a change of machinery, really. And we thought we'd give the X-Up a good go because the right-handers use them, seem to get a good result. So we thought we'd get a try on the left-handers and see how it goes from there.
I don't see you lads very often, but I've seen you twice in 2 weeks now, basically. Bridgenorth a couple of weeks ago and now today down in Essex. I did note at Bridgenorth a lot of the lads were on V-twins. Can you tell me a little bit about the comparison between the V-twin and the straight four?
Yeah, difficult question for me. I've never actually ridden a V4, a V-twin. They seem to have a lot of grunt in the right places, where a multi-cylinder is very smooth and a lot more wheel spin. I think on a dry track, if you rode well and your engine was on performance, then I think they outpull the V-twins down the straight. But as soon as it gets into a little bit of a sticky situation where you need grunt that gets it into the ground, then I think the V-twin comes into its own on that. So it's I guess it's a case really. If I had the money, I would buy a V-twin, but the money is out of my sort of pocket, so we go for the next best thing really, which is a 4-cylinder road bike or engine. So that's about it really.
Right, you came up to my part of the world, Shropshire, last couple of weeks ago for the final as the reigning champion. On that day, from where I was seated, you had an awful day. Would that be fair comment? And tell us what happened.
Yeah, well, we're trying to ignore that one. Yeah, we basically we went out for a first practice, and the bike wasn't doing too well. And then we came back, changed the carburetors, changed the gearing, changed the tyres, and then went out for a second practice, and it seemed to be really good. And we had a few people come over to us and sort of said the bike sounded nice, performing nice, fast. So we sort of fancied the chances a little bit. We knew it would be tough. And on the first race, I got a bad gate, and I chased the 2 or 3 in front of me, nice and close, sort of try and take him on the corner. But with the mud and everything else, I got filled in straight away. Took my goggles off, and then the mud filled my helmet up. So we just had to come to a standstill because the lights were out, and that was it. And second race, the bike wasn't performing too well. And the third heat, the carburetors kept flooding. So it was just a total disaster, really. Give it a go next year. That's all I can say, really.
Well, you've got a smile on your face here down in Essex tonight. How do you see your prospects for tomorrow?
Well, I'm hoping for a good day. I've changed a few things on the bike this week, altered the angle of the frame, changed a few things in the carburetors. And first practice seemed to go quite well, but not well enough. And I came in, it was only 4 on 3, and we changed the plug, went back out another practice, and it seems to be very, very quick. So we give it a best shot tomorrow and hope for a good day.
Right, and finally, I've got to ask you, with 3 types of sidecar racing in this country, do you lads that go left-handed feel you get a fair crack of the whip in British sidecar racing?
Not really, no. I've won the championship twice now. The first time I won it, there was somebody else's picture in the paper, and I think somebody else's name that won it, and they amended it the following week. The second time I won it, there's no picture again of me, but 2 other people. And this year when Tom won it, they said very, very little about him, but said a lot about the 500s, and they said a lot about the solos. I know they're good bikes, good riders, but we all have to spend the same money, put the same effort into it, and it does cost an arm and a leg. So a little bit more publicity to make us feel the part would go down gratefully.
Well, we'll ask Gary roughly the same question. When I'm doing commentaries, I always try to mention the passengers as well. Gary, do you feel that sidecar passengers get a fair mention in Grasstrack racing?
Yeah, I think so. They didn't used to, but nowadays they do, yeah. People realise it is a team going round there. Let's face it, without the passenger, the driver's going nowhere. And without the driver, the passenger's going nowhere. So you've got to work it as a team. It is a team effort out there. And if one of you ain't performing, you're not going to go anywhere. So, yeah, I think they get a fair crack now.
Well, we look forward to tomorrow. We've got a few dark clouds overhead at the moment, but we look forward to the racing.
Oh, it's old Les Stewart, and he's still alive. I'm now doing something a little more easy going. I'm not breaking my arm or my leg. I'm now doing the market selling punchcraft kits. So if you want to take part in a wonderful occupation, just come along and see us at our stall. I wonder if John could cast his camera on some of the things I do. There's pussycats, you can make them look like real fur. And if you care to look on this board, I wonder if John can move his camera around. You can actually do pictures of your favourite rider. There we are. There's Todd Wiltshire. There's the sidecar logo. And of course there's a self-portrait of myself. And here's my good wife Sheila, who helps me out on the market stalls. In the background you can see some more emblems like the Welsh Dragon, the Eagle, and there's one of good old Raz on the back there. So I wish you all well, folks. If you want to see me at the weekend, I'll be at North Weald Market up in near East London.
Well, we're joined by Brian Canning and Colin Lewis, who we haven't seen around the circuits for about a month. I know Colin's had an injury, and I believe this is first time back. Can you fill us in on that one?
Yes, was at the meeting at, I can't remember where it was now, Avondale, that was it. I was alright in the meeting, took my leathers off at the end of the meeting, and had this funny pain in a funny place. You know, so I decided to myself, oh, I'll sit down and see if it goes away. But instead of that, it just decided to creep down my left leg, all around the small, my back, and everywhere. And in the end, I couldn't hardly move, so went over to the first aid in the middle. He says, oh, you've twisted something vital. So he said, the best thing we can do for you is get you to hospital. So I went to hospital about 6 o'clock, see a specialist about 7, another operation about 8 o'clock in the evening. So that put me out for 3 weeks, to a month, because it was very tender. Yeah, went out for a practice last week at the Midland Grass, but it was a bit too rough, and I decided not to bother last week, save myself for this week. I went out yesterday for practice, and it's all working. No, nothing tender, nothing at all about it. It seems to be okay. So today we'll just take it as it comes.
Right, sounds good. Brian, 1 or 2 people said to me at the British final, disappointed obviously up in the Midlands not to see you riding at Bridgnorth. Maybe you should have had a standing passenger. Can you give us a little bit of brief on that one?
Yeah, well, I spent all week trying to get somebody. I wanted somebody that you know, had a pretty good idea on what to do, and there was just nobody available at all. So rather than ride at the back sort of thing, we just decided to forget it, and we'll try again next year. But I felt we had a pretty good chance of, you know, getting into the first half dozen anyway, but that's how it goes, you know.
Brian, I've known you a long time when you were racing solos, and I've commented many times on the commentary about the turnout of your machinery, always immaculate when you had a solo, always immaculate, same with your sidecar. Tell us a little bit about the bike. I know it's British built, I know a lot of the lads have got Tims. Fill us in a little bit on the bike if you would.
Well, it's the last one that Les Allerton made. I don't know whether he'll ever make any more. I think if you pay enough for one, he will do, but he's totally lost interest now. But it handles very well. It's a little bit longer than the German one. I think with if the bends were bigger, you could get away with it being a bit shorter. But with it being a little bit longer, it tends not to pick up quite so much, and whereas a short wheelbase one would. But we're pleased with it. We've had a little bit of bother with it, but nothing drastic. This is its second full year, and with no major problems. We tried the Jawa, the new Jawa last year, which we were really pleased with. I got another one at the beginning of this year, and people think that I think 1 or 2 people think they've had a bit of work done on them, but they're absolutely standard. Alan Bellham does them for me, and I'm really pleased with them. But today, I think the bike likes this sort of track. It's pretty slick, it's hard. I think at the end of the day there'll be quite a lot of rubber on it, but and it'll suit Colin as well because it's pretty smooth for his first meeting back.
Right, talking about today, we've got what I call the Kent left-handers, the left-hand 1,000 chairs. We've got the right-hand chairs. We've got 500 chairs, international class and national class. Can you tell us why you're riding in the national class as opposed to riding against the Continentals today?
Yeah, we're only doing the national class, as you said, Brian, that really because there was an invitation sent out for some of the lads to go over to Holland to race. We couldn't go, so really it's a return meeting, and the lads who went over there have got the option of racing today, so you know, the rest of us are in the national class, so it's just a return match really.
Right, I'm going to finish with Colin. Colin, first day back, you've filled us in pretty fully on what happened about 4 weeks ago. Your chances for today?
Well, if Brian put his mind to it and keep his one hand open, we should be in with a good chance. As long as he doesn't, as long as he's not asleep on the gate, and decides that when the tape goes, you should go with it. Hopefully, all goes well. We should be within first three.
Yeah, I'd like that. Yeah, be nice.
Right, well, as somebody from my part of the country, I wish you well. Thanks very much. Thank you. Right, we're joined by a face very familiar in this area, in fact, very familiar nationwide. Carl Squirrel, British 500 sidecar champion 1990. The never-to-be-forgotten Wet Whitchurch meeting. Carl, a change of transportation today. Tell us a little bit about number 33 today.
Well, as most people know, I've given up the sidecars for various different reasons. So had to dig this one out of the shed. That's been lying dormant for 3 years, so we thought we'd give it a go, see if it will still go, you know. But how it will go, I don't know yet.
Is there any rumour, any truth in the rumour that you're a bit worried about the 500 shares because you think your father might beat you?
Well, in actual fact, he hasn't beaten me yet. So people think he has, but in the 2 meetings we have raced together, I've always managed to beat him, so I'm not too concerned, but that's all I'm going to say for the moment.
Right, how do you see your chances today on the 250?
Don't know. This track is very hard. It's very difficult for me to ride because I still tend to think I'm in the sidecar and tend to go in the corners flat out, but so it's a bit of a job. I might end up in the ropes, so if you see me, give us a push back in anyway.
A lot of people watch John's videos that aren't Grasstrack minded. The name Rotax may be a bit of a mystery to some people. Can you tell us a little bit about the Rotax?
Yeah, certainly. That's an Austrian engine, made in Austria. This particular type is a twin-cylinder one, which is used in kart racing and also in road racing bikes up to a few years ago, before the Japanese got in onto the act. It's a twin-cylinder, as you can see, one behind the other cylinders. It should have as much power as a 500 solo, but whether we can get that power onto the ground, I don't really know. But today we shall see anyway.
Right, thanks very much, Carl, and over to you, John. Thank you. Teager, a man who a lot of people associate, of course, with Speedway, having been a top man at Scunthorpe amongst other clubs for many, many years. Kevin, first of all, for Grasstrack fans here today, or Grasstrack fans watching John's tape, can you just fill us in a little bit on your very long and successful Speedway career?
Well, I started off junior with Ipswich, then we went to second division with Scunthorpe, which I was there for five odd years. Then we moved down to Crayford, had a year there. 2 years after that I rid for Hackney. We won the Knockout Cup and second in the league there, so it was a good couple of years. Then I moved to Wimbledon, and from there I went to Rye House, then back to Ipswich, and then back to Arena Essex. So I suppose I've done nearly all the clubs around here, really.
So, a very simple question. What's a Speedway man doing riding Grasstrack? Generally, it's the other way around. People ride Grasstrack and then they go Speedway. You've done it the other way around.
Yes, I don't know why, really, because I must admit, that's one of my regrets. This is only my second year, full year at Grasstrack. I wish I'd have combined the both of them. It was a mistake that when I was riding Speedway, I should have done Grasstrack as well. But I'm trying to make up for it now, and with so many riders on the Speedway world, you know, if you want to race a motorbike, this is the ideal place to do it. You can enjoy the afternoon and you know, be competitive as well.
I know, although it's only your second year, you've qualified for the British Masters in '92. I know you had a disappointing first outing. Can you tell us a little bit about your '92 Masters?
Yeah, about a couple of weeks beforehand, we were doing the second round of the Eastern Centre Championship over at Starsden near Norwich, and I won the Eastern Centre Championship last year, so I wanted to do well. And unfortunately the chain kept coming off every time I hit the front, and the last time it threw me over the front, and you know, several of us ended up in a big heap, and unfortunately that sort of put me off a little bit for the Masters. But having said that, I was a little bit outclassed at the Masters. They have very good riders in a meeting like that, you know, they're world class, they are the best. But I'm hoping to do a bit better in the second round. I'm hoping to have a good day today here, make sure my equipment's good, and then maybe put on a good show for the Eastern Centre when I get to the Masters, you know.
Can I just ask, are you riding in the Inter-Centre Championships next week down at Brighton?
Yes, I did make the team. There's going to be Robbie Fuller, who's a good friend of mine, myself, Neil Scopes, and several of the other lads, you know. So we're hoping to do quite well, yes, in the Inter League.
Right, Kevin, thanks very much for your time, and I'll let you get on. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Well, first of all, I've just been watching practice, and I must say I've been going to Grasstrack for 30 years, and some of the best driving I've ever seen controlling your incident. Tell us about your incident.
Yeah, well, I didn't realise Nigel was off until sort of I was a good way down the straight. And on these, the chair suddenly goes light, and I was going to the right, and well, I knew I was in trouble, to be quite honest. I was going too fast to get around the corner, and I just had to hang on in there and try and wriggle the front round and try and get it under control, which thankfully for me, like, I did.
You make it all sound very easy. From where I was stood, you had about 30 yards to stop from about 80 miles an hour. A little bit about the Penfold family. I know you've got a lot of nephews racing now. We spoke to one of them at length at the British final. Can you just give us an update on the Penfold family's involvement with the 1,000 chair racing?
Yeah, well, I'm coming into my 4th season now. I'm the youngest of the original Penfolds. And of course all my brothers have stopped riding now. It's just my nephews. So I'm battling to keep up with the youth, as it were. But I'm still giving it a go. I'm 39, and as I say, I'm the youngest, and I'm still going to have a couple of 3 more seasons to see if I can get the better of them. But my brothers' boys are certainly quick. Young Tom, Tony. Thankfully, Dave and George have gone right-handed now, but they was pretty quick. But there's still a big involvement from that side of my family in the left-handed.
John Fish last night was telling us all about the 4-cylinder Japanese motors. I know you raced the V-twin Godden. Can you tell us why you raced the V-twin?
I prefer it. It's more simple to me. It's a simple setup unit, 2-speed box. Anything goes wrong, Don Godden lives about 15 miles from me. Need I say more?
Right, point taken. Well, thanks very much, and it's good to see you still the right way up after that practice incident. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
By 3 people who had a pretty hectic weekend, Alan and Lynn Peck and Dave Collin. I know all 3 of you were on the continent last night. You're in Essex today. First of all, a little bit about what happened last night. We'll start over there with Dave. You're looking a bit muddy, Dave.
That's because I was at the back all the time. A dreadful night. It was wet, slippery and horrible, and I didn't like it one bit. But people like Alan kept filling me in all night, so that was about it, really. So.
Can you tell us where the meeting was, first of all?
A little place called Rocroi, I think it's pronounced, right up on the Belgian border, so it's sort of North France, so, sort of 2.5 hours from Calais. So. And we left there at 2:30 this morning, I think, to drive straight back here. So I've had an hour's sleep since then.
Yeah, you're saying you're at the back, but that's different to what I've heard around the paddock. You had quite a good result. Can you actually tell us where you finished?
I finished 6th, so it wasn't too bad. And the prize money is good, so that made me smile at the end of the day. So. I'd have all going down a pub tonight.
Right, we'll move on to Alan and Lynn, husband and wife team, of course. Alan, we were talking earlier, and I know things were going super for you, and then suddenly it all went wrong. Can you tell us a bit about what happened?
Yeah, well, went into the final 1 point clear of everybody. Been making the gates all night in the wet. Off the line, made the start, and then the gearbox dropped into neutral. So the time we selected second, it was all over for us, really. So we ended up third overall. Third overall altogether at the end of the day, which was quite a good result, really. But it's a shame it happened when it did. Could have been a bit better.
And like Dave, presumably you've had very little sleep.
Very little sleep. Yeah, but if we have a good day today, it's all been worth it.
I'm sure a lot of people here today were at Bridge North, and everybody knows what happened. Lynn, terrifying incident. Do you want to tell us about it, or tell us if you're 100% after that episode?
Well, I've still got a bit of a stiff neck and whatever, but yeah, it didn't do any damage on the day. Just sort of a bit of a shock and winded me. But I mean, what happened was the bike in front came across, took our front wheel, and the bike reared up and over we went. Seemed ages before we stopped rolling, but you know, both of us are fine, and I'm just glad we made it over the line.
Yeah, it frightened me, but a colleague of mine who was stood behind said, don't worry, she'll get up, she's a moorcock. Any comments on that?
Well, normally my dad would have come along and said, what are you doing down there, you silly cow? But he was holding my hand saying, oh, you're all right. So he was worried too, but I did get up.
Yeah, it all ended well, but it was pretty frightening at the time. So I know we've got to write a presentation in a minute, so we'll let you get on with that. Thanks very much for your time. Thank you.
Delete number 76. Right, we'll stop it there at the bottom of page 8, and we'll sign into it. Number 7, Roger Lobb, long way up from Cornwall. Roger Lobb riding number 7. Mark Powell riding number 9. Lee Garrod, number 11. Number 14, John Jeffries. 41 is Richard Empson. 42 is Chris Phillips. And 99 is Daniel Abbott. So that's the youth class. Roger Lobb, of course, cousin to Gary Lobb. I think he's a cousin to Gary Lobb. Number 72 is Kevin Teague, the former Speedway man. Number 18 is George Cook. We're missing out 1 or 2. They're coming pretty quick. Fast. Number 43 there is Kevin Lanchester. Number 1, the Odyssey program, Keith Garrod. Number 33 is Carl Squirrel, of course, of 500 sidecar fame. Number 21, the first to go past us, Norman Hayes. 57 is Mike Reed. Number 10 is Tony Cook. And number 71, Brian Palmer. Brian Palmer, Scotland. And we have the right-hand sidecars, thousand right-hand sidecars. Number 47, Peter and Jim Evans there. Number 34, Our Lady Crew, Penelope Hook and Jane McLaren. Number 3, Colin Hudson and Ian Saker. Number 1, Dave Heath. Oh, rather back to the 500s now, they're all mixing up. Is Ricky Neal with Ginger Passenger and Matthew Joyner. Number 10 is Colin Green and Roger Hill. Right, the left-hand sidecars all coming together. And number 2 is Bill Penfold, Nigel Shaw. Back to the solos. Number 3 there is Richard Smith, 24. 24, Peter Nunn and Neil Session. 57 is Kevin Mardell and Anthony Eckley. Davies there, number 1, Davies in John Bowsley, British champion, 12 years ago, back in 1980, Dave Heath was British sidecar champion in those days. Of course, he had Dave Ellis there. 500 sidecars. Number 14, Simon Beard. Number 13, Keith Beard and Robert Herman Chatting. Number 11 is in grid 5. Rolf Leonberg, number 8 is in grid 3. And Keith Beard, number 13, is in grid 6. So the first race of the afternoon, the P&O European Ferry, Asia Club Challenge. And we get underway, the first to show the diminutive figure, all for 5'2" of him. Dave Collin and Rick Francis, who, as I said earlier, they've only had about an hour's sleep due to their commitment over on the continent last night, but Dave Collin, a local man from Chelmsford, number 5 lead on the bottom turn. Dave Collin and Rick Francis. Second place, number 13, Keith Beard and Robert Graves. So, at the moment, the British crew's really up front, and the Dutch crew's still there, battling it out, but it's Dave Collin pulling away just a little bit as they come off the Dutchman, and behind Jan Pasteur, Mark Stubberfield. So, Pasteur, number 7, trying to get on terms with the British lads down the back straight, but at the moment can do nothing at all about it. The order is still the same. The last lap. Pasteur in third place. Pasteur is followed by Mark Stubberfield, and behind him is Rolf Leonberg. and we've lost one on the bottom turn. The man who went out was next flag, first race today, for Dave Collins, first flag, he cleared in second. He was a very young man, used to help us organise the Alderman Grasstrack back in 79, 1881. And they get as they go past us for the first time, Norman Haynes and Tony Cook were up there. But as they go round the top turn for the first time, or bottom turn, whichever way you look at the field, I think it's slow finish, so I'm going to call it the top turn. We have the familiar figure of Tony Cook and Andy Mabel. 7 metres from in second place, number 21, Norman Haynes, and in third place, Ricky Neal with his change of passenger, Matthew Joyner. Norman Haynes, Ricky Neal, and Dave Duncan. That's still the order, with Tony Cook and Andy Snape really having it very much their own way in this one. They were up in the Midlands last week, on Warwick, and scored out in the final point, not going forward last week. And Tony and Andy, they had a good ride in the final and finished second in the Midland Championships behind the reigning British champion, the crew that won it a couple of weeks ago. So, Tony Cook and Andy Snape, number 7, style from number 21, Norman Haynes, top 3. Close to third, very close, but Ricky Neal, Matthew Joyner just great. Look to our left, moved up. Number 6, Robbie Fuller. So Fuller it is who leads on the Van Mees, and that machine, of course, tuned by Roy Randall. And the reason it's called Van Mees is a machine that's been around for quite some time. And I only found out today that believe it or not, sounds nice. So that's an explanation. One or two of my colleagues were interested in this Van Mees and what it meant. And well, that's what it's all about. So it's already into the last lap with a substantial lead. Robbie Fuller in. Darrow there, keep matching them up there, but as the last lap flag goes on the floor, checkered flag at the ready, it's going to be very for number 6, Robbie Fuller. So, let's see right now, we're in second place, number 1, Darrow, third place, probably 7 or 8 years ago, well, the rising start, and red flags go up. So, we're going to have a restart of race. He did ask me to point out to everyone that if he does start excluding some of the youth people, the touching flags, please don't think he's being inconsistent. It is merely that there is a slightly different code for the youth division. So, as we look to our right, Dave Eves up there, but Gary Parmenter and Terry Manley it is. Into the bottom turn. The crew making a comeback. Gary Parmenter, Terry Manley, who used to have the X-Ray Chapman outfit, which is now incidentally being ridden in this race by number 4, John Stafford and Wayne Stafford. So here comes Beatty on the inside, but it's still Parminter. Parminter and Davey, 1-2 at the moment. Colin Hunt is third, behind them Bridgewell. And behind Bridgewell, it's John Stafford. And behind John Stafford, Colin Green and Roger Hicks bringing up the rear at the moment. Down the back straight. And the order is still very much the same, with Parminter and Heath Davies on his Speedway outfit trying to come through on the inside. The race for the checkered flag. It's a win for Gary Parminter. Davies second. Behind Davies, Colin Hunt, and behind Colin Hunt, number 17, Merv Bridgewell. Behind Merv Bridgewell, John Stafford and Wayne Stafford. Number 4, John Stafford and Wayne Stafford. And in 6th place, number 10, Colin Green and Roger Hicks. So numbers again, 81, 17, 4, and 10. Right, we move on to race 6. 250 Solo Speedway Star Challenge. The race also sponsored by Fram Motorcycles. That's of course Jerry and Carl Squirrel. Both of them here today competing. Great video program. Out in front. Number 18, George Cook. Behind him, Steve Cyrus. So the 250 is getting on out just a little bit, but George Cook on the 250 class here today. George Cook, a young man racing, former schoolboy of course, former youth Grasstrack racer. George riding first seat in the senior class and riding to great effect because we have the checkered flag and the ready, and the young man is going to take it, number 18, behind him in second place, number 62, number 3, White Haulage, and then in race 7, 500 sidecar international, we have Dave Collins, while they're off the line, Dave Collins who leads. As they go into first turn, Alan Peck's up there. Jan Pasteur is up there. A little bit of dust kicking up, but luckily for us, I think the dust is blowing in the right direction. Alan Peck gets a good drive out of the top turn, tries to get on to Dave Collins. Well, last night, Alan Peck had the edge on Dave over on the continent, but Dave Collins one win under the belt. Colin leads from Peck. In third place, Jan Pasteur. Behind Jan Pasteur, number 91, Wayne Boyd. And at the moment, the other two Dutch crews just getting tailed off a little bit. But it is still the Chelmsford man. Dave's having none of it. Well, Simon Beard in 5th place, and at the moment the tall figure of Jojo Vanderwerf and Lammert de Vries at the back of the second flag. Second really after Dave Collins qualified. Alan Peck, Jan Pasteur, Wayne Boyd, and Simon Beard. And those numbers again: 5, 20, 7, 91, 14 and 15. We move on to race 8, the youth division, first race of the afternoon. And off the line goes number 14, John Jeffries. Well, my spies last night who go to youth meetings were saying that John Jeffries was man to be tipped to win. All these lads, 15, 14, 15 years old. Second place, Scott Nichols, number 6. And following Scott Nichols, number 41, Richard Empson. Well, Richard Empson, along with young Roger Lobb, has probably had one of the longest trips to the meeting here today. Richard Empson from Warrington up in Cheshire, well, on the Cheshire border. The last lap goes number 14, Scott Jeffries. And good stop a second between number 6, Scott Jeffries, and Richard Emerson, and behind them Roger Lobb, the Cornish lad, on the Teak Perry built antique Kawasaki in 4th place. But big blind John Jeffries really is a blind wheel in the air. He takes his win on the track win. In 2nd place, Scott Nichols, the local man from Ipswich, under Yamaha. And in 3rd place, it was number 41, Richard Emerson. Race 9, 500 solo event, the Calgard Lubricant Super Free. And race 9 is sponsored by Phil Parsley. And the Phil Parsley is an ardent Grasstrack fan, and yes, nice to see him. Well, as they went past me for the first time, it was and still is the addition to your programme, the Kent man on the GM from Ashford, number 11, Steve Wilson leading. So, in close attendance is Sean Nichols, the Ipswich man. Gary Manchester's up there, Peter Finch is up there. But the man who's got away to the tune of something like 60 or 70 metres into the bottom turn is number 11, Steve Wilson. Third place, number 73, Kevin Teager, and Kevin Teager coming up through the field. And nice to see Kevin Teager, Grasstrack racing, of course, a long and very distinguished career on the speedway, particularly with Scunthorpe. And people are talking about it now for another couple of years. Second right then, number 11, Steve Wilson, followed by number 10, Sean Nichols, behind him Kevin Teager, and behind Kevin Teager was Peter Finch. 5th, number 43, Kevin Manchester. 6th, number 51, Nathan Morton. 7th, number 47, Shane Mingwood. And 8th, number 7, Keith Mitchell. Race 9, 11, 10, 72, 44, 43, 51, 47, 7. Move on. On the left hand out, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. They all go. The only non-starter is Bob Miles and Keith Miles. As I said earlier, they've got a broken gearbox, so they're non-starters. So all 6,000 left-handers go in race number 10. The Big Dipper Catering Company Challenge. The only change, Malcolm Smith rides number 10 in place of Nick Dillon. He is passed by Rob. So, John Peake and Barry Moore on the FZR, they lead. And they lead it by some distance as they go into the top 10 for the second time. The man who won the British Championship in 1991 with Gary Moore, he won it back in number 76, Gary Moore, in second place. Number 74, Johnny Malone in third place, number 27, Ryan Holland, followed by Keith Leicester, and Malcolm Smith, and we've lost Phil Penfold. We've lost Phil Penfold and Nigel Shaw somewhere. My apologies to Bill. Still there in the second spot for the win. For John Peake, Phil Penfold second. Fourth place, hometown of Shrewsbury. Morris Lubricants, who gave race contracts for oil for 1993 season to all the British champions up at Bridge North a couple of weeks ago. And the recipients on that day were, of course, included, of course, Graham Thomas and Kevin Lyde. Well, close as they go in the first turn. Very close. Race 11. And it's Jerry Squirrel leading as they go in the bottom turn. Well, Jerry, yeah. We've had some Jerry Squirrel is leading. Brown's in second place, Tony Cook in third. And Ricky Neal and Matthew Joyner there with problems getting tailed off. But dare I say, the surprise leader down the back straight is still Jerry Squirrel from Rouse in second place. Tony Cook in third, Tony Cook trying to come up to the inside. The last lap. Rouse still in second, Tony Cook in third. In fourth place behind them, Mike Green. In fifth place, Brian Canning. Well, Brian Canning and Colin Lewis making a comeback. A few weeks ago, Colin Lewis had a very nasty injury to parts which he didn't have injured, and had to have an operation. And second class. And how about that? Super win there for Jerry Squirrel and Paul Stafford on the by Doc Diner. A good car owned by Doc Pound, and that's no not likely to be with us today. On race 12, 350s, we get underway, and as they went past us for the first time, out in front was Steve Carter. Steve not had the best of luck recently. About 4 weeks ago he took quite a nasty tumble, which is unusual for Steve because he's usually 100% safe. He did take a nasty tumble. Had to pull out of the British one at Bridge North, and he's making a comeback today. So now, dare I say, here in the veteran stage, Steve Carter, but he's come under pressure. Come under pressure from number 6, Roger Fuller. Behind them in third place, number 3, Alan Plummer on the Java, and behind them, Mark Scope. So that's the leading 4 into the last turn, and we're going to see the second win of the afternoon. He gets about 20 meters from sixth place, in third place. On the line. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be the former British champion, Dave Heath? It'd be nice to see the girls win, but Dave Heath, I would think, the obvious favourite, although of course he had won second place this afternoon. He was beaten by Gary Parmenter. But as we go into the first turn, easy up there with the Speedway outfit, easy to pick up, but as they come off the bend, it is Colin Hutton leading, Colin Hutton lead from Kevin Mardell. And Colin Hutton, I've just been given a little note that he changed his passenger. It was Ian Saker, but I'm led to believe that Colin Hutton now has Tony Bassett in the chair, and it is Colin Hutton leading as they come off the top turn with Mardell in second, then Heath in third. In fourth place, it's Peter Nunn. And behind Peter Nunn is number 47, Peter Evans. And just at the back of the line, Penelope Hook and Jane McLaren. Penelope Hook, of course, her husband Martin Hook does what I do. He does Grasstrack commentaries, and he'll be down in the centre of Brighton next week. Number 3 then, a win for Colin Hutton and change of passenger, Tony Bassett. And on a big outfit. We move on to race number 14. Race 14. And this looks close. As they go past us for the first time, Herman Chassing was up there with Keith Beard and Simon Beard. But as they come out of the first turn, well, riders just getting themselves sorted out. And, well, this looks close. This looks very we have leading for the first time this afternoon one of the Dutch crews. That's number 11, Herman Chassing and Jack Van Dyke. They ride a God, and they come from The Hague. And Herman, by profession, deals in motorcycle spares. As they go into the last lap, We have lost, I think, Dave Collins. No, we haven't. We've lost Mark Stubberfield and Nick Harbour. So we've lost them on the bottom turn. We've got obviously some sort of mechanical problem, and it looks as though we're going to see the first one in the afternoon. Or a Dutch crew. Rob Leonberg, third place. Race 15 then, just two additions to program. And a lightning start there from the Kent man on the DM. Wilson it is who leads as they go into the first turn. And Steve Wilson already with one win under his belt this afternoon. Goes like the proverbial train into the top turn. Likely front runner in this. Third place, Kevin Manchester. Behind Kevin Manchester, Russell Miles. Wilson certainly means business. He won his first ride, you recall, by a considerable distance. He's about 30 metres up on Tiga as they go into the bottom turn. Third place, number 43, Kevin Manchester. Behind Manchester, Dean Garrod. Number 5, third or fourth place. On the first lap and drop back just a little bit. We look to all that we see. Up high. Second place. Behind him, 43, Kevin Manchester. Behind Kevin Manchester. Behind Kevin Manchester. Fourth, number 1, Dean Garrod. Fifth, number 5. Seventh, number 16. 8th, number 47, 9th, number 7. I gave you those very quickly because already we have race 16 out. I'll go through them again. Race 15, 11, 72, 43, 1, 5, 53, 16, 47, and 7. Time of 1:17, 53.5 miles an hour. Already out in front, number 62. On the Yamaha, leading by some distance from Richard Smith on the Suzuki in second place. Phil Ranson up there as well, the familiar figure of Phil Ranson in the green leathers. On the Myco, Silver, Ryan out there. Cyrus still on in second place, number 3, Richard Smith. And still up there in third. And behind him, fourth place was Charles Squirrel on the Rotax. Interesting Rotax, that is not the familiar single-cylinder Rotax. It's actually a twin cylinder machine, one cylinder behind the other. Second flag goes to Steve Tyler. Second place by a whisker was Phil Ranson. Squirrel up there. And Keith Lessiter and Jim Crum, Brian and Clive Holland, John Fish and Gary Moore. The winners, first time out on the FZR.